Ringtons have been producing quality teas for 93 years. Though not much has changed about their high standard of service, this new factory in Newcastle has certainly brought them into the 21st century. The company was started in 1907 by a man called Samuel Smith. He was born in Leeds in 1872 and he began his working career as an errand boy for a Leeds-based tea merchants.
He soon realised the potential for a door-to-door tea business. After many years building up an extensive knowledge of the tea industry, Sam decided it was time to put his ideas into practice. And so, in 1907, he headed north to Newcastle upon Tyne. Initially, Sam had a business partner, one William Titrington, and it is the Rington part of his name, coupled with the S from the Smith family name, that gave them the title of their new company. Out of an initial investment of £250, Sam bought a horse, a van, some utensils, and of course a stock of tea. Only 1 year later, there were 2 horses and a loyal staff of 4 employees to help him cope with this rapidly expanding enterprise. The war years of 1914 to 1918 saw a labour shortage for the company. Sam promised to keep open the positions of 15 of his 17 workforce until they returned from after the war. Wartime also saw the introduction of rationing and a conditional sales law that caused even more difficulties for the company. Sam dealt with these difficulties by diversifying. He sold everything from dried eggs to canned meat and fish. Wartime took its toll on the business. He was left with only 3 vans and a company on the verge of collapse. 12 men did return from the war and Sam honoured his promise and re-employed them all. This sense of loyalty ran right throughout the company, and together they were able to turn the business around. Sam was also very pleased to see that people flocked once again to buy the high-quality tea that they'd missed throughout the war. In 1926, a purpose-built 6-storey head office building was opened in Byker, Newcastle upon Tyne, and then in 1935, Sam built a large blending and packaging factory in Leeds, on the site of the very cottage where he'd been born. In 1928, Ringtons commissioned their first piece of pottery. It was a willow patterned tea caddy in order to commemorate the North East Coast Industries Exhibition. The interest in these ceramics is still very strong today, and some of the original items have become highly collectible pieces. It was during the 1920s that Sam began to introduce motorised vehicles to the business, but it wasn't until 1954 that mechanisation of the sales fleet was completed. Even so, the last horse didn't retire from service until the 1960s. It was this mechanisation, coupled with the introduction of tea bags to Ringtons in 1964, that saw the beginning of a new era for the company. Ringtons took another step forward in 1978 when they began supplying Marks and Spencers as the smallest of 3 tea suppliers. Today they are one of the major suppliers to St Michael's in the UK and account for almost all of the company's exports worldwide. This long-standing partnership has allowed both parties to reach new standards in tea production. The introduction of extra fresh vacuum-packed tea in 1990 was another Ringtons milestone, as once again the quality of tea production went to a higher level. Unfortunately, Samuel Smith wasn't around to see these last few changes. He had seen the business survive through another world war, during which time his fleet of 200 vans had been forced off the road by government legislation. He died on August the 12th, 1949, aged 77. So we've seen how Ringtons used to look, and how the company has moved with the times and provided its customers throughout the country with its favourite drink throughout the last century. Mr. Simon Smith, the 4th generation of Smiths since Sam, is the current managing director.
Ringtons have maintained the same working practices since it was founded. The new factory is much more modern and in keeping with high production levels we now have. I remember when things were a little different, and although we have always kept up with new technology, we have always been influenced by manpower. Here at Ringtons we pride ourselves on our tea being special. We have our own tea tasting department, complete with expert tea tasters who ensure that the tea you drink is the very best available. Up to 200 teas from all around the world can be tasted in a normal day, and our vacuum packaging means that you also receive the freshest tea direct to your door. We use only the finest quality teas from high ground plantations, mainly in Kenya and the Assam region of India. We regularly visit the tea plantations around the world in order to ensure that the conditions are ideal, both for the workers and the actual tea itself. So let's take a look at where our tea leaves come from and how they are prepared before they reach us in prime condition.
Ringtons teas come mainly from Kenya, Rwanda and Tanzania in East Africa, Sri Lanka and Assam in North India.
So now we've seen where the tea comes from and just how carefully it is picked and packed for maximum freshness. Now let's see how those leaves become the teas that have made Ringtons renowned nationwide.
The tea packages are shipped from the plantations to Felixstowe, where they're collected by a transport company and delivered to the Ringtons warehouse in South Kirby, Yorkshire. This warehouse stores all of the leaves that have been shipped in from around the world until the blending and packing plant is ready to receive them. A sample is taken from each batch of different types of tea and sent up to the head office in Newcastle, where the tea is tasted and tested and the blends decided upon. Each of the samples sent from the warehouse in South Kirby is brewed in this purpose-built tea tasting room here at head office in Newcastle using the proper equipment. Giant copper kettles ensure the water poured into the pot is boiling and the teapots themselves are ideal for the perfect tasting session. The tasters decide which types of leaves will best blend together to make the perfect flavour for the extensive range of Ringtons teas. The mechanical processes the dried leaves will eventually go through may have been updated over the years, but this job has remained the same since Ringtons was founded.
The tasters are here seen at the difficult task of deciding which of the hundreds of teas offered are up to the high standard set by Ringtons.
The many different blends of tea are laid out and each is tasted and tested. They are checked against previous batches of the same blend to ensure continuity of the range. Once a blend has been decided, a printed form with the relevant information is sent to the warehouse in South Kirby. Each blend has its own picking sheet that contains information that the warehouse staff need in order to gather the correct quantities and combination of leaves to produce a full-scale run of that blend. The leaves are stacked onto pallets and loaded onto a truck, ready to be taken to their final destination, the blending and packing plant in Newcastle. It is at this factory that the sacks and vacuum packs of leaves are transformed into the finished tea products. Each sack of leaves is sent through the blending plant machinery to ensure any foreign bodies present are removed. Large sieves and a strong magnet ensure that the leaves are of the purest quality and the correct size. Once all impurities are removed and only the correct size leaves are left, they are mixed in a large drum on this impressive machine. Once the blend is mixed thoroughly, the leaves are stored in giant hoppers and again samples are taken and sent over to the head office to check that the blend is correct. These hoppers are connected to the packing room via a series of pipes and the tea is fed through to complete the process. The tea is automatically distributed into either bags or tea packets using these machines. The employees here ensure that no underweight packets can go through the system. The finished tea products are then packaged and boxed up, ready to be distributed. This blending and packing plant also produces coffee. Raw green coffee beans are roasted here and then cooled. The roasted beans are then stored in wheeled bins until they are ready for grinding or packing. Again, as with tea, different kinds of beans are mixed together to create the perfect blend of coffee. all the finished products have yet another sample taken for testing. Here in the Quality Control Department, rigorous testing of the tea and the actual tea bag material is undertaken. Another tradition that has not changed here at Ringtons since it first began trading is the way in which it is sold to the public. Ringtons is unique in that it does not sell its own branded goods in the supermarkets and grocery shops as most tea manufacturers do. It maintains that the best way to sell its wares is by door-to-door delivery. This impressive fleet of delivery vans has replaced the horses and carts used in the first half of the last century. But the same ethic applies. These days the vans are ultra-modern and can carry just as much stock. There are 370 salespeople working on 185 vans, each serving around 160 customers per day. That's a lot of tea. This is the sales office in Bedlington, Northumberland, where there are 12 vans and 28 employees, delivering to around 500 square miles of the surrounding area. There are 32 offices similar to this one around the UK. Each one is set out in a similar way, with each van having its own bay full of the week's stock, all ready to be delivered to the customer's door. Then they are off on their rounds to deliver their stock to the waiting customers. The way that deliveries are made is also a tradition that Ringtons have kept over the years. The baskets used today are the same type as those first used back in the days of Sam Smith. Of course, most of the customers have been buying and drinking Ringtons teas for years. People have come to rely upon the name Ringtons to mean quality and to be one of the top tasting teas available.
Your tea, madam.
We saw there some other products Ringtons sell, but let's just take a quick look and remind ourselves of exactly what Ringtons can provide. Teas, coffees, biscuits and sweets, ceramics and gifts. Should any of the customers need to inquire further about any of the products or services offered by Ringtons, a customer care line is provided. This care line deals with queries quickly and efficiently, ensuring Ringtons maintain their high standards of customer care.
So now we've seen how the tea is picked, prepared, quality tested and delivered straight to your door. We have to ask, what does the future hold for Ringtons?
Like all businesses, we have to move with the times. The thing at the centre of our business remains exactly the same, that is our customer relationship. We will continue to develop this through the attractiveness of our products and our ever-improving service levels.
Well, Ringtons is poised to face the future with a modern attitude, while still managing to retain all of its customs. It has beaten recession, survived 2 world wars, and is now armed and ready to face the 21st century.